Hello, I'm here with Dr. John Carrozzella. I said to him jokingly a minute ago that his last name sounds like something I want to put with some red peppers and basil, but he knows that I don't eat much bread. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today. Dr. Carrozzella is part of a consortium of the new thinking kinds of doctors. They are courageous, and they also have great energy and vitality because someone like Dr. Carrozzella had to go back to school to learn these new protocols and new forms and learn about bioidentical hormones, because this is not part of the medical school protocol. So I want to first welcome Dr. Carrozzella today. I'm so glad to be talking to you. And I was reading your bio and information, and you've got a full service practice happening there. You're in Orlando, Florida. And let's first start with the bioidentical hormones. Is your practice mainly men or women or both, or evenly split?
Sure. Well, my practice, as you say, Suzanne, is in Orlando, and it is both men and women, although what is pretty typical in a practice like this, it tends to float more towards the women than the men. And I see maybe about 60-70% women, maybe 70-75% women, and then the remainder are men.
I wonder why it is that women will come first.
Well, there's actually a couple of reasons, and I've given a lot of thought to this, okay? The first one really is that the women have the dramatic changes that they experience in menopause. And they go through these changes in their late 40s or in their early 50s, and it can be really life-altering, you know, between the hot flashes and the night sweats and the can't think straight and the sexual dysfunction and all of those things. It's really devastating, and it can be rather dramatic and sudden, kind of like what happened with my wife, which was really remarkable. And then what ends up happening is they go around and they start asking their doctors and their friends, and nobody knows what to do. So they start going out there and looking on the internet or reading your books, and they find out that there might be something to do, and then they'll find somebody like me on the internet or by word of mouth and end up here. So their dramatic onset of menopause is usually a little bit more of a fast driver than the guys. The guys, on the other hand, they tend to dwindle down over years. Their hormone decline is a little bit slower. The changes are less dramatic. They happen, you know, over more of an extended period of time, and they just don't feel right. And so what often happens to them is they just go, I don't know, I'm losing a step, I'm just getting old, and they don't really get that dramatic move. And of course, we all know that guys don't go to the doctor anyway. They're most often dragged there by their wives. The other thing that happens is many times they will go to the doctor and they say, hey, doc, you know, I just don't feel well. I think I got low T. I've read all of the stuff, and I think that's what I've got. And their doctors will get a testosterone level, and they'll go, oh, well, you're not low testosterone. You know, you're 400. Well, if you look at that range, that normal range of 250 to, say, 1100, 400 is certainly in the normal range. But those of us that are in this field and practice hormone management as a specialty know that it's not just the number. You're dealing with a person on the other side of that lab sheet. And when they have the symptoms of hormonal decline, that's far more important to me. And I know that a level of 400 is going to be associated with symptoms, and it's going to be all associated with altered lifestyle, life-altering medical changes. And so they get the impression that they're normal when they're really not. So that prevents the guys from coming in probably as frequently as they might otherwise come into the office.
Well, let's establish this. When a guy's young and in his full prime and got all his juice going, what are his levels at that age?
Well, you'll see guys, and I like to tell my guys, I say, you know where I want you? I want you at a 25-year-old Olympic gold medalist hormone level. Okay, and if you measure those guys, you'd find that their normals are going to be 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, sometimes even higher, because they're usually eating very good. Nowadays, with the nutritional knowledge that we have, these young guys that are high-quality athletes, they're eating clean, and so their receptors are working well, their manufacturing capabilities are working well, and so their hormone levels are going to be high. So they're going to be up around 1,100 or 1,200 many times.
We'll go back to hormones in a minute, but what you just said about eating clean, how important is the food and the food choices?
Oh my goodness. I got to tell you what, the more I've done this, and as you know, I recently got my master's degree in nutritional and metabolic medicine from University of South Florida after 25 years as a practicing orthopedic surgeon. So That's how committed
By
I
the
am.
way, congratulations. What an accomplishment, especially going back to school at this time of life. I really admire you.
Well, you know, I felt like coming from surgery into hormones, into more of an integrative medical practice, having those credentials behind me was very much worthwhile. And not only that, the knowledge it gives me to give to my patients is just, I can't tell you how beneficial it is to the people that I serve every day. But, you know, get back to eating clean. Mm-hmm. Eating clean is just an amazing thing. The foods that we eat that are contaminated by hormones that block the effectiveness of our natural hormones, that's one example of some kind of toxicity. Again, in one of your books that you've written about, and you've written about those hormone mimics very well. So that's an element of eating not clean. Eating things like gluten, high carbohydrate meals, those things provoke inflammatory reactions in the body. Those inflammatory reactions set off these little fires that go around and burn in your body that interfere with the normal metabolic function. So when you eat these things that are contaminated by toxins, we're all subjected to heavy metals and a variety of other things. And it's amazing what you would find in your food if you don't eat organic. One of my favorite websites to go to look at food and clean, healthy eating is this website, which I'm sure you're well acquainted with. It's called the Environmental Working Group, or EWG.org. If the people viewing this video are interested in understanding how to eat clean and how to keep those toxins and those inflammatory foods out of their diet, that is a beautiful resource to go to learn this stuff. But eating clean, eating healthy, I can't overemphasize it. And it's a lifestyle change that will deliver big time on the way that you feel, big time on the way that you age, and will help fight off a lot of the diseases of aging.
I have a lot of people who say to me relative to organic food, oh, it's so expensive. And I always say, it's a lot more expensive to be sick. The food choices, I really believe, are crucial today in the whole approach to aging the new way. I've noticed something in my peers who have been on the road. And this is just, there's no science behind this, but I look at major performers I've known throughout my life who are have come down with Alzheimer's, and I can count them on two hands. That's a lot. And I was thinking recently, having been on the road myself, when you do a show, you rehearse all day, you do a show, you don't feel like eating. You don't eat. When the show is over, you are exhausted and you are famished, but nothing's open. So you drive down the main street of whatever town it is, and there's the fast food restaurant, and then you pig out. I stopped going on the road a long time ago, but my friends who maintained on the road are, Alzheimer's is a terrible disease. So it just confirmed to me of the food. You've got to take the food seriously.
Absolutely. And you've got to prepare. And, you know, I deal with a lot of people that travel. I have pilots in my practice. I've got, you know, people who travel for a living. And it is really hard. And we work on it and we talk about it a lot. You've got to prepare and you've got to get ready. You have to pack things, and the things available to pack and bring with you now are getting better and better and better quality. And you have to do some research. You have to prepare when you go, searching out the restaurants and the places where you're going to be heading that are going to have cleaner menus. And thank God we're seeing more and more and more of that as time goes by.
I always encourage my readers, even if you know the restaurant doesn't have anything organic, ask, do you have anything organic? So that eventually the message will get to the owner. Boy, we have a lot of people asking for organic. Because for me, I have a hard time eating in a restaurant where there's nothing organic. There's so much to talk to you about. I want to get to the O shot and the P shot and the PRP and all those things. But I first want to go through the protocol that you use when a patient comes in.
Sure.
Do they come in educated, or they come in knowing nothing? Did they just heard from a girlfriend?
Well, you know, the answer to that is all of the above. But, you know, and I was just writing to somebody, I had a patient who had written to me questioning one of the supplements that I was using, and she was very well read. And I was thrilled. I wrote back to her, says, you know, I love dealing with people who come in educated because it's a lot easier to teach them what I want to do. Okay, so they get it, they connect. The challenge, though, is when the people come in educated, you got to be on your toes. Because they're going to ask you questions that they want answers to, okay? Now, the good things with the really educated people is I've learned it's very easy to say to them, hey, listen, you're asking me a question I don't know. I need a day to figure that one out or do my research and get back to you.
How refreshing.
But you know, and I'm free with that, and I like to do that because I want to give them the right information. I just don't want to say something on the fly and be wrong. But I get both of them. I get educated and I get uneducated people, and it's fun to deal with both of them. I'd say it's about split 50-50 in this business because you know what ends up happening, and particularly with the women, the way that they are still getting the runaround when it comes to their hormone management, they just have to go out there. They go to their family doctor, they get no satisfaction. They go to their OB/GYN and they get things like one of my patients was told me, she patted her on the back and said, hey, young lady, she says, you just have to put your big girl panties on and get over it. And you know, that kind of attitude just stunts you when there's so many good things that can be done for these people.
Yeah, that makes you want to go home and have a martini or two.
Oh, well, it makes me want to rip their head off. But you know, the funny thing about it is that very OB/GYN is going to be the first one in line when she goes through these problems. So you know, I kind of say, okay, I'm going to still get the last laugh on this one, and we're going to still get there. But yeah, they're about half and half, educated, uneducated.
The exciting thing about being alive right now is that we have extended life. You know, that's why there's a magazine called Life Extension, and there are life extension societies, and then the futurists who go way out there and say there's indefinite life and life to 120 and all that. But let's just stay within the confines of what's available right now. We've extended life to where you and I are going to live to 90, 100, maybe 110. It's very possible. I can see it. Although Ray Kurzweil said to me one day when I said 110, he said, let me ask you this. On your 110th birthday, and you got your brain, and you've got strong bones, you want that to be your last day? I said, well.
There you go. You want to keep going.
You want to keep going.
The beautiful thing about continuing to live that long is a lot of people put that in the context of what they see a lot of the older people today and see these frail people who are just struggling to get by day. Right. I don't see that. I see people who are wanting to be in their 90s and vigorous. I've got 85-year-old women complaining to me that they're not having enough sex in the week. and it's invigorating. I mean, God gave this gift of intimacy, and to have been given the gift to be able to help cure that when that goes away, and to see these people experiencing physical intimacy in their 70s and their 80s, it's just something that warms your heart, and it's available to people with virtually no risk. Because, you know, one of the things that just kills me about this business is all of the misinformation about the harms of bioidentical hormones and how it's bad for you or causes cancer, and it's keeping so many people from enjoying their aging years. It's just really sad.
Well, that's why we're doing these interviews. Just get this information out there, because I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying aging. This is nothing like what I thought it was going to be, and I have or I'm getting what no young person can buy or have, and that is my wisdom is beginning to pour, and I've got perspective, and that's an unbelievable gift. But you brought up sex, and I'm so glad. When I was on that show, The Talk, earlier this year, Carney Wilson said to me, because I was talking about, you know, your libido comes back and you get to enjoy life and your kids are gone and you get to enjoy sex. She goes, well, how many times a week do you and your husband have sex? She said, if you tell me 3 times, I'll kill myself. I said, no, a couple times a day.
Exactly.
Just like when we were young, because I've got the time and the kids are gone. That is, you know, a healthy person is a sexual person. So to me, having a libido is an indicator of your overall health. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it just shows where we are on the inside. You know, one of the things I heard is, you know, when people get really sick and really, you know, frail, they go into survivor mode. And when you're in survivor mode, the last thing that you're thinking as an organism is to procreate. Okay. Oh. But when you're healthy and vibrant and vigorous, that urge to procreate or create more of what you have is just there. It's a natural instinct that God gave to us. So when people are having a lot of sex, it is a very good indicator of a healthy life.
I agree. Clear this one up for me right now. I have so many women who write me saying, if I go on these hormones, will I get pregnant? Please answer, doctor.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, what you're doing, your body has shut down the normal manufacture of hormones by the shutting down of the ovaries through the normal aging process. They do not work anymore. They will not produce an egg ever again, no matter if you beat them with a nuclear explosion. By replacing the hormones that the ovaries used to make, all you're doing is giving the other tissues in the body that life-sustaining, life-enhancing bath of nutrients, so to speak, that makes them function better.
I think menopause really should be called egglessness.
There you go. I like that one. I'll have to write
You are
that
now eggless. Yeah. So men too lose their libidos also. Is testosterone the answer, or is it the full complement of all of the hormones that's the answer for men?
Well, the way I kind of explain it to my guys is kind of like this. I said, listen, you know, you can go to Thanksgiving dinner and you can have turkey and mashed potatoes. And it can be November 21st or whichever day it falls on that year. And you can say, yeah, it's Thanksgiving. But if you put the cranberry sauce and the apple pie and the sweet potatoes and everything else together, now you've got Thanksgiving, and you know you've got Thanksgiving. Well, that's kind of like hormones.
Yeah.
If you just put them on testosterone, they're going to feel better. You know, you're going to do that. But if you balance their DHEA and you check their adrenals out, you make sure their thyroid is working well and everything is going good altogether, now they start to round out, and it's almost like a rose blossoming. You can see the difference in these guys, you know, when you get them really rounded out. And, you know, let's face it, I get guys come in and say, you know, doc, I can't really afford very much, and, you know, it's kind of tough for me to be here, and you know, it's okay, I can just do testosterone. And you do that, and either sometime down the road they change and go to the full program, or you compare them side by side by the two guys, the one's on the full program and one that's not. You really can see a difference. So when you're balancing hormones, it's important to do the full package. And that's why it's important sometimes to go to somebody that's been really thoroughly trained. And, you know, listen, I know people are out there trying to enhance their practices and doing everything they can these days to try to make ends meet in a medical practice under the stresses that we're under. But, you know, going to a weekend warrior, as I call them, somebody that's just learned how to do hormones, they're going to miss the follow-ons. Just today, for example, I had a lady that came in and we had her testosterone perfect, we had her estradiol perfect, we had her progesterone perfect, her thyroid was perfect. She says, doc, I'm not feeling the love here. She says, it's just not working. You got to know where to go next. And, you know, of course, you start going down the other secondary hormones. You got to look at the adrenals. You got to start looking at their toxicity. And so having somebody that understands the in-depth and the dominoes that fall after the basic ones is very, very important. So answering your question again, yes. Getting the whole package and summing up all of the hormones is very, very important to do.
And for those of you who are watching this interview with Dr. Carrozzella, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a doctor who gets this big picture. If your doctor has not learned to specialize in this new arena, it's like going to a plumber for a heart bypass. It's that out of their scope. So this is the kind of doctor that you've been looking for, and I know that's why you are watching. Most women my age say to me about sex, oh, I'm over that. And I always say, yeah, you've just forgotten how cool it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I find what this has done relative to enhancing life, nothing short of a miracle. It allows us to live this long time that we were just discussing and enjoy each day and wake up with a spring in your step. I mean, what's the difference between youth and old age? It's vitality.
Absolutely.
So it's not about chronology anymore. It's about how young is your energy. I know 40-year-olds who are a lot older than I am, and I'm sure you do too.
Oh my goodness, I see it every day. It's stunning to see people who take care of themselves, who balance their hormones, and balance it against smokers, people with really poor diets that are out there overstressed. I mean, they can literally look twice as old.
And living in big cities, like when I'm in New York City, there are EMF towers on top of every building. If you look up, every building has several EMF towers. There are EMF towers in the elevators. For those of you who don't know, that's electromagnetic fields. That's what's running all our internets and everything, but we're all getting zapped. And in a big city, the dietary habits are bad, and there's so much stress. All of that blunts hormone production, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I can go down a list of about 30 different things, but the big ones that not only blunt hormone production, so you're going to have impact on your ability to make them, you have an impact on the ability of the cells that the hormones affect to receive those hormones, okay? We're exposed to toxic metals all of the time. You'd be surprised at how many people are carrying around toxic metal loads. It's just stunning. Yes. And then again, if people aren't looking for it, they're not finding that. So you've got to be aware that that's out there, okay? When you get hormones in your food, they will either block or reduce the production of your natural hormones, okay? That will decrease things, okay? And inflammatory diets, okay? If you've got Crohn's disease or Hashimoto's thyroiditis or whatever, those types of inflammations can affect your hormones. Radiation. People, it's now we're starting to understand that people that sleep in a bedroom that have the TV or the clock on the side of the bed and, you know, your cell phone, all of these are emitting harmful radio waves that are damaging to our cells. They're damaging to our hormone production. They're just very bad things. And so you can start adding these things up. And as you go to a good integrative physician, he can start to identify those things, he or she can start to identify those things for you. And as you gradually clean up your life, you will definitely see an impact on the way that you feel and the way that you perform.
And there's another factor that I know. I live near the ocean in Los Angeles, Orlando. You have a lot of mold, just like we do on the West Coast. How often do patients come in, and as you do your detective work, you find that they have mold toxicity? And what do you do about it?
Well, I mean, it is a big deal. I mean, and you know, there's obviously the black molds and the aromatic molds that give off the gases that become toxic. I mean, you first have to have an awareness that it's there. You have to then look for it, identify it, define it. Once you define it, really the first thing that you got to do is you got to eliminate the source, because you could spend all of this time and money cleaning up the patient, but if you don't get the source or contamination taken care of first, they're just going to go back into their environment. So you've got to make sure that you deal with their environment. Once you've isolated all of that and identified the particular mold, then there's some very specific metabolic programs that you have to go through. The things that I generally send people out, mold is a little bit of a really complex thing, and I've got resources to do that. But to go through the detoxification process at that point, it can be done. And again, those are life-changing things that people go through. In
your practice, do you do IV therapies?
Not in my practice, but I have some very good referral points that I use IV therapy, and I'm a strong believer in it.
Right, yeah, right.
And my wife actually just went through an IV program and really changed her around dramatically.
My husband also, he was the impetus for me writing that book, Toxic. What is the O shot and the P shot?
Oh, you want to get into BHRT. The fun things.
What?
Yeah, these are the fun ones. One of the, particularly with women, when their hormones decline, their tissues in the sexual organs deteriorates. And
right.
When it deteriorates, it doesn't work well. And of course, before the hormones are fixed, you know, they get things like dryness, they get pain with sex, they get tearing, they get bleeding, and just an overall sense of, hey, listen, why don't you stay over there and I'll stay over here and we can be friends, okay? We don't want that, okay? But what I generally do and approach it is we fix the hormones, and then there are other things that we can do locally to try and enhance the hormonal environment of the sexual organs. If that doesn't work, what happens a lot of times is we want to do something that kickstarts the rejuvenation of the vaginal tissues. The O shot is a really unique and a really cool procedure. And, you know, I've been with Charles Reynolds a couple of times, and I've really gotten into detail on how to expertly administer this procedure. And what it does is it takes the healing factors in your own blood, it isolates them, and it multiplies them up several times. You then take those healing factors and you put them down in the sexual organs, around the clitoris, around the urethra, and in the vaginal wall. It's all done very painlessly, and we've got really cool new techniques to make this painless. And it takes just a few minutes to do the procedure.
And how long after one has this shot does it rev up?
Remarkable. It can start to, some people say that they start to feel better immediately. Realistically, the biology says it takes about 6 to 10 weeks for the cells to rejuvenate. And there clearly is rejuvenation of the tissues because the tissues get thicker, they get more endurant, they get more sensitive, the sexual sensation comes back, and it can be as good or better than it has been for years. So
what a wonderful advantage.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful
wonderful thing. You're the first doctor I've ever talked to who's brought this up. I'd never heard of it before. But for all of you out there listening, you women, if you want to, I guess, juice up, this is a great place to go. But you see, there's nothing frivolous about what you're doing. It's science. It's individualized. Your hormones, as I read your information, you do lab work to determine the exact deficiency of the patient. So there's no haphazard throwing it at you and keeping your fingers crossed. And that's what I love about this new science.
It is absolutely science. And, we do approach it like a physician. Mm-hmm. You measure, you identify, you diagnose, you outline a treatment plan, you observe the effects, and you measure the effects, okay? And everything that I do in my office is based upon solid medical literature. And I can tell you that the medical literature, for people that take the time and the effort to roll up their sleeves and to wade through a lot of the garbage out there, will find that hormone therapy, bioidentical hormone therapy, is safe and extremely effective at relieving the problems of menopause and, in fact, mitigating a lot of the diseases of aging.
And for those who are watching, just from my own personal experience, I had breast cancer 20 years ago. I've been on bioidentical hormones ever since. I've never looked back. I've never felt better. I've never been healthier. So the myth.
You took your hormones while you were getting treated for your breast cancer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, exactly. I know. And that's really the killer thing. I mean, I can find a number of good articles in the literature that support the use of balanced hormones in the right environment with women in breast cancer, but the frenzy is so crazy out there in the medical world that you just can't go near it. I mean, I would treat my wife if she had breast cancer just like you were treated with bioidenticals,
right?
And some people very close to me, but I got to tell you what, because of the frenzy, it's scary to offer it to other people, yet I know that it would be life-saving.
Right.
Even now, prostate cancer is being treated at Massachusetts General Hospital. They're actually looking at treating prostate cancer with testosterone and estradiol. And they're finding in very preliminary work that puts a damper on the prostate cancer and may be one of the best treatments out there. And we were told that's testosterone.
Sorry, that's Dr. Abe Morgentaler you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Yes, he's on the faculty at Harvard and their chief urologist. And he told me I interviewed him for a book of mine, and he said, I've just completed a small but very important study. He said, it didn't matter what stage the patient came in, male patient. It didn't matter how high their PSA was. He said, in every single case, when I administered testosterone, their levels went down. He said, I haven't had one recurrence. And I said, this just has to be known everywhere.
Yep.
But in the alternative world, everybody knows about Abe Morgentaler, but in mainstream, they didn't. When I was on the book tour, they didn't want to know about that. So this is something that you are propagating in your office, and there's science to back it up.
Yeah, it's mainstream medicine. They've got their turf, and they don't like being challenged. I mean,
right. Right. How many men have had their prostates removed, which is so debilitating, and go on that very expensive shot, which is so debilitating, so feminizing, and lose their ability to be the guy they were, going to a doctor who hasn't opened up as you have to this new thinking? I think that you should just feel so good about what you've chosen to do. Is your work gratifying to you at the end of the day? Do you feel good about what you've done?
Oh my goodness. I have one of the best jobs in the world. I got to tell you, I was a practicing orthopedic surgeon for 25 years because I was a do-it-fix-it kind of a guy.
Right.
I would like to take those broken bones and make them straight again, and there was a lot of satisfaction in that. But I got to tell you what, you fix people far deeper, far more meaningful, and far more emotionally than you did before. I mean, when I got a lady come in this office and says, Dr. Carrozzella, if you don't fix my sex life by tomorrow afternoon, my husband is leaving me. And 6 weeks later, she comes in and cries and tells me how happy that they are, that their life has been restored. It's just an amazing thing, and it's just really something special. So this is a very gratifying line of work, and I wish everybody could experience it. And I thank God every day that he gave me the gift of the knowledge that I have to be able to apply to other people. It's just so much fun.
And I can feel your passion and your enthusiasm. You're jazzed about what you do.
Yes. Oh, I love it. It's so much fun.
Well, is there anything else you would like to say there's somebody watching right now who has been on the fence about this? What would you say to that person?
Well, I'm going to tell that person, I'm going to say, hormone therapy and integrative medicine, or the metabolic medicine that we do, hormone therapy is life-changing. And to sit there and listen to conventional wisdom and to be swayed by what you hear from your doctor, or for what you see on TV, or what Big Pharma or, the Gynecology Society wants to tell you, don't do it. Go out there, research your doctor, find a good hormone doctor, and go get treated. It will change your life. It will be rewarding. You will love it.
And if you are in the Orlando area in Florida, Dr. John Carrozzella is the guy for you. I so enjoyed talking to you. I love your passion.
Awesome, Susanna. It was a pleasure and it was an honor to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.